covering it. It's a summit that's going to take place for the next 4 days.
Thank you, America First! Thank you, Stop the Steal!
With my sister Elizabeth Etzinson, we are at the turning point.
Shlama, shalom, and salam to one and all. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is the Mona K Show. I'm your host, Mona K. Oshana. Thank you for everyone that's joining us, as always, with every week that you are with us, the family of the Mona K, as we'd like to call you. And then thank you for joining us. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, you are family as well. And we hope you come back and join us more often. Today, we have a jam-packed show for you today. We don't have a guest. It's just me, myself, and I. And it's going to be one on one. You and I are going to talk about all that's going on. And the theme of our program today, the title of our program is What in the Heck is Going On in America? But not really what the in the heck, but what's going on in America, everyone. I know that everybody's been following the news, and it's been day after day, full packed, jam packed with headlines and news and information. Truly, information overload. And we often say here where the Mona K Show does not do breaking news, but we have a little bit of breaking news. Right before we got on the air, my producer, of course, none other than Mr. Fred Duman from Cinema Production, who brings, of course, does the wonderful work that we're able to do today because of his expertise and, of course, his talent. Um, Told me about a couple of things that just came on the news as we were getting to go on the air. And of course, the one prominent one that hit the news is, of course, about the YouTube executive, excuse me, Susan Wojcicki. I have a hard time saying her last name as well. YouTube CEO Wojcicki, one of the first Google employees, steps down. And of course, that came as a result of what has been happening. And as many of you know, and I'm reading the article from the New York Post. It says House Judiciary subpoenas big tech on censorship collusion with the feds. As you know, Senator Jim Jordan, Congressman Jim Jordan, actually is the one that um, is subpoenaing all the big tech. And it's amazing that as the subpoenas come, the resignations are coming, and one of the first to come, of course, it's Susan Wojcicki. And as I'm reading, it says February 16th, YouTube chief executive, one of the first Google employees, Susan Wojcicki, is stepping down from her role at the tech giant that started in her garage nearly 25 years ago. She said in a personal update on the video sharing platform on Thursday. Wojcicki, who's 54 years old, will be replaced by her deputy, Neil Mohan, a senior advertising and product executive who joined Google in 2008. There you have it. And of course, from the House Judiciary, GOP, we have a statement that says today, Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan subpoenaed the chief executive officers of Alphabet, Amazon, Apple, Meta, and Microsoft for documents and communications relating to the federal government reported collusion with big tech to suppress free speech. The House Judiciary Committee has repeatedly attempted to engage with the five companies since last December. Unfortunately, the companies have not adequately complied with our request. Congress has an important role in protecting and advancing fundamental free speech principles, including by examining how private actors coordinate with the government to suppress First Amendment protection speech. These subpoenas are the first in holding big tech accountable. Today's subpoena require Sundar Pichai, Andy Jassy, Tim Cook, Mark Zuckerberg, and Satya Nadella to turn over all requested documents and communications by March 23rd, 2023. And this, ladies and gentlemen, basically is saying that these private companies took it upon themselves, as many of you have been watching the committee hearings with many of the Twitter files that came out. And then the last few days, you saw many of the employees, that the top ranking employees of Twitter, were it being asked, what gave you the right? What some of the questions were, what gave you the right to suppress people that were speaking their mind? And their idea was it was hate speech, it was derogatory speech, it was speech that was hurting people, that was hateful, that was discriminative in that respect. And I don't know if you saw the exchange going back and forth, but I remember one of which was talking about the CDC, or actually the COVID-19 information, as they were deeming the information from top notch doctors that are doing researchers and in labs and had multiple years of experience, that were actually contradicting some of the information that was out there. And of course, the head of the health information was none other than Dr. Fauci, and they were contradicting those information to say, as being experts on their side, and of course colleagues of Dr. Fauci. And yet Twitter and many of the other platforms were suppressing those kinds of information to say that it is false information, it is fake news, and they were either censoring those voices, blocking those posts, or completely taking down the accounts. They were suspending accounts, they were deleting accounts, and they were telling they no longer have. Many of the people, as you saw after the Twitter files, many of the peoples were just after a year and a half, in the last 2 years, were saying, I'm back. Many of the reactions that we were getting is, I was suppressed for saying this, and this is my last tweet. And there were many examples of things like that. So for the first time, and because, and as the Democrats like to say, and of course both sides say it, but elections have consequences. And in this particular last election that we had, thank God, the Republicans gained the majority of the House of Republicans, of the House of Congress, the House, the People's House, really, of Congress. And now, as you can see, the Judiciary Committee is calling out these big tech companies to come forward and to speak, and of one of which, of course, the executive was none other than Susan, and I keep forgetting how to pronounce her name. Her name is Wojcicki. There she is. She resigned. She basically resigned, and she knows that the pressure is coming, and she's going to need to answer the hard question. But you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see her in front of the committee anyways, for the years that she has, because she, is part of the media sensation and the media conglomerates that actually caused this damage that we are in today, and actually caused this divide that we are. Had they stayed private and not colluded, as they want to say, they love the word colluded. Had they not colluded with the government or whomever they colluded with, we would have free speech galore, and we would remain the free United States of America, and not censored and not held back. And this is coming from a woman that escaped, along with my family, of course, a dictatorship, a regime that did silence us. And I've seen it happen. Saddam Hussein took control of the media, took control of all of the the departments of government, and silenced them. And they walked at his march. Their marching orders came from Saddam Hussein, and they marched at his orders. And so we've seen that happen before, and we see the signs, because when you cannot speak, And we know that we could not speak our mind because we were threatened and told. In this case, of course, in America, in many cases, we were warned that we couldn't say this and we couldn't say that. But then we saw the double standards in many of the situation where what one said was censored, but the same thing could have been said by another side. Those were not censored. And we see that the collusion happened with the DOJ, it happened with the FBI, and it happens with the governmental department that we thought that as a people, as we the people, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Libertarian, whatever you want to call yourself, whatever, even those that have no party, that relate or recognize no party, we thought we were all one because we, as I'd like to say, as someone that is a survivor of atrocities committed by the government, I would think coming to America that we would have a voice finally. We would have a position and we would have joined the membership of We the People because We the People does not have a gender, does not have a religion, does not have a creed, does not have a color, ethnic race. We the People are We the People of America. But we saw that these big techs companies were not treating the people the same. They were picking and choosing. There were double standards. And you know what? They might find something, they might find not. But right now they're being held accountable. And that's what's important right now is to know that they are being held accountable. So having said that, I just wanted to start out the program and I want to thank my brother again, Fred Duman, for bringing that to my attention because it is really truly breaking news. And for those of you that are watching, if you don't mind inviting your friends and sharing this program with everyone to go ahead and give us your input, tell us what you think. We want to take your questions, your ideas, and like I said, today's program is called "What is Happening in America." It's not intended to compete with breaking news, of course, because we know that there are so many huge outlets out there that are breaking those news. Our program is to present our viewpoint of the breaking news. It's just to give you our viewpoint as everyone else's. This is also a reaction to the news as regular citizens. I used to follow the news until I started making the news myself. I used to listen to the news and say, oh, that's interesting. Until one day I found myself being the news. That's when I started taking things more seriously. Let me explain why I say that I was listening to the news, then I became the news. When we escaped Iraq, we lived a very peaceful life in America. When we escaped, we immigrated to America. For the most part, we lived a very peaceful life. It was only after the Iraq-Iran war that people started asking questions like, where are you from again? Because Iraq was not on the, it's almost like it wasn't on the map. Of course it was, but nobody knew where Iraq was. I had to give them regional positions of where Syria is. Well, the Middle East in general, people were not aware of where the Middle East is. So when the realization of where we are from was finally digested by the West, more focus was placed on the Middle East. And those of us who came from that region realized we had a target. I shouldn't say on our backs, but we were a target. This is when I started to speak more, write more, and get involved more. As much as journalism says, report the story, but don't become part of the story, or report the news, but don't become part of the news. Well, I can't help it. That didn't work out for us. That didn't work out for me. I speak to you as one that in many cases is the story of our past struggles, oppression, escape. That is always on the forefront because I always find myself not only speaking about our past, but comparing it to what we're going through here today. Now, a lot of people, when I compare Iraq, what I saw in Iraq, what I escaped Iraq, I was very young, but had a very good memory of what was going on because in Iraq, children were forced to mature and they had to know the issues. Otherwise, someone in the family would have gotten killed. If not someone from the family, one of the community members. I come from, many of you know, the Christian Assyrian community that lived in Iraq. And of course, Assyrians are scattered all over the Middle East, in Iran, in Turkey, in Syria, Lebanon, in Jordan. And right now, after the ISIS invasion of Mosul 2014, the majority of the occupants of ISIS, of course, were Christian Assyrians, and they're scattered all over the world, and in most cases in refugee camps. And some of the people that you saw, and of course, well, our heart goes out still praying for the victims of the earthquake of Turkey and Syria. A lot of the refugees that were actually in both countries, Syria and Turkey, are refugee camps, are countries that are accepting refugees from all directions. And we thank them for that. But don't forget, these are people that are displaced. They belong neither here nor there. They've escaped Iraq, and in many cases, don't belong anywhere. And they're waiting their turn, and they're waiting to have some country that they've knocked on their doors. You know, they're knocking on someone's door to be let in. And so some country, some charitable, some compassionate country will take them in. And of course, our heart and prayer and thoughts goes out still to the victims of Turkey and Syria. And we know that the death rate is going up. And I know there's many charitable organizations on the ground that are helping. And we pray for all of the ones that are involving. Now, today in this program, I want to go over a compilation of headlines and give you my perspective and, again, or my opinion, some questions to ponder if we can during as we go along and talk about these stories. Are these things happening as a coincidence or a distraction? Because and the reason I ask that is because, again, because of my background, the government was the biggest perpetrator of crimes against its own people. Saddam Hussein, being one of the people, was the enemy of the people. And so there were many distractions that were created to offset the attention of the population so that they would not question the government or the regime as they were constricting the whole population into submission. And so, forgive me for comparing Iraq to America, but I'm seeing many signs that, or Iran or Syria, or for many parts of the world that are oppressive to their people. Forgive me, but I can't help but sense that fear again that rises up in my heart. And I'm afraid for my newfound country, for the country that adopted me into its arms, the mother country of all refugees and all oppressed and all that are broken and fallen. They come to America to find their backbone, really, and their voice. And so we want to ask our question, are all these that are happening, again, we're not breaking the news, you know what I'm talking about. We're going to go one by one. Coincidences or distractions? Why would our government want to distract the public is a question we want to ask. If it is a distraction, why would the government want to distract us? If it is a coincidence, why so many at the same time? I'm overwhelmed with the news. Me and Fred couldn't keep track of what's coming up and what's not. That's why I chose not to have a guest today, because it's unbelievable what's going on today. In addition to our country is already reeling from all that we are dealing with. Here are a few headlines to add to the many social issues that we are bombarded with. One of which that is dear and close to my heart as an immigrant, of course, is the border. I believe the border can solve many, many, many different crimes if we can just secure it. And I call it a multifaceted problem because of the fact that it entails so many problems of human trafficking, of smuggling, of drugs, of illegal immigration. And I often have been saying this, and again, forgive me for saying this. I respect the government that took me in, the laws that accepted me, the laws that I followed and my family followed, and my Assyrian community followed to come into America. The immigration's laws that are on the book work. I am living proof, and my family and my community is living proof of those immigration laws that work. But unfortunately, and this is what I'm saying, the illegal immigrants are not completely at fault, because when you've got laws on the book and they're not being enforced by the country that has those laws, then it is no longer the perpetrator's fault. The perpetrator, a thief, you leave your doors open, a thief will come right in. And what's the job of a thief? To steal, kill, destroy. And so therefore, we are seeing that there are many faceted crimes happening at our border. And of course, not to mention our school system, not to mention this gender identity crisis that we have, that we are being forced to identify um, more than one gender. And again, I respect everyone's choices of what choices they make for their lives. But for the most part, the as Governor Sarah Huckabee said, we have a choice right now, and I do say this with the utmost respect, really, between normal and crazy. So we are in such a state of confusion in our country that we have stopped. We are unable to become united, and these issues keep dividing us. Now we want to talk about things that you've seen on the news, and of course, one of which is the balloon, the spy balloon, the China spy balloon story that was in our sovereign airspace that no one seems to know what, where, when, where, how, before the, of course, and I want to give credit to all of the freelance journalists that are out there doing the job of the mainstream media that is not really, because again, just like we were talking with the big tech, I have a feeling journalism is coming is going to be held accountable. And when I say journalism, I'm talking about the big mainstream media that have chosen to report and to some stories, of course, with their own twist, and of course, bury under the sand, or maybe brush under the carpet what they don't want to report. Where I thought the news was supposed to be reported so that we, the people, can decipher between what we want to accept and whatnot. And so, in this case, we have a very divided country. We have a lot of unresolved issues, and we are being derailed. Talk about derailment, and we're going to come to that. And so, the next, of course, subject line that we are going to be talking about is the Ohio train carrying toxic chemical derailments, and it's just in not just in Ohio, but there's one in Texas. And again, thanks to Fred, he also just told me about a story that just happened in Michigan, another story. And again, all of this is coming as a result of freelance independent journalists that are in their respective cities, states, or just searching, doing the job of the mainstream media that are bringing attention to it. And I know that some people are poo-pooing and going, oh, it's just a small town journalist or someone that's wanting to make it big in the journalism field or in the media field. But no, these stories have an impact, have a real potential here to that need to be surveyed, that need to be reckoned with, and need to be studied, because journalism is almost dead. It's not the same journalism as when we heard the news and said, "Did you hear what they said on the news?" Today we have to research the news. So when the news is researching and it's supposed to research and give you the news, now we're researching the news, the anchors, the networks, and it's a shame, really, that we're having to do all of that. And of course, don't forget, we are in Arizona. There was a Tucson truck carrying, again, chemicals also that derailed, and it it had an accident and it fell over, and of course it exposed to all of the chemical. And it was right here in Tucson. Tucson is about 2 hours away from us, and they had an evacuation for about a mile. We'll talk about that. And of course, the silver lining in the middle of all of these controversies and everything that's going on, and many of you have heard, I believe today's the 10th day, the Asbury University Revival Service, which is, I believe, on its 10th day. And we're going to get into that story in a few minutes. And many of you have heard also a couple of days ago, ambassador to United States ambassador to the UN, and of course former governor of not Arkansas, South Carolina, Nikki Haley, announced her campaign to run, as other candidates are also beginning to get ready to announce their bid. And I have a clip from Governor Kristi Noem, one of my favorites, of South Dakota, who's talking to Fox News anchor Bret Baier on why she might consider running. And I just liked her storyline and what she was talking about. And I just couldn't resist sharing that with you. And of course, praying, and seriously praying, and I'm not being sarcastic here, I am seriously praying for Senator Fetterman, who, as you well know, ran against Dr. Oz, and Dr. Oz lost in Pennsylvania. We're going to talk about, and I'm sure many of you have seen the story that he has actually entered himself into a health facility because he's going through severe depression. And we have another announcement of one of the an endorsement for our program, a grand opening of a restaurant that we'd like to tell you about in a few minutes. But let's start with, if we can, with all that's going on with the, as I like to call it, the balloon story. Oh my God, have you heard enough of the balloon story, for God's sake? I mean, as you can imagine, you would think that we have heard enough. Um, it's after many days of little or no response to the China spy balloon story. Now President Biden says that uh, the objects that were shot down over US were not linked to the to the China spy program. So forgive me for reaching over my shoulder here, but I just wanted to let you know that I'm going to be doing that from time to time. And this is a 10, bring it back, Fred, if you don't mind. This is the 10 Chinese spy flight sightings that they saw. And if you see, the red spotted during Trump administration and the blue ones were spotted during Biden administration. However, the Trump administration and his staff have, I believe they talked to 4 or 5 different the staff members and President Trump himself, and they've said they know nothing of any sightings of any spy sightings. And we were later told that, of course, by the Biden administration staffers, that it happened after President Trump went out of office. So there was no way for President Trump to have known about it. So in this case, it's kind of scary, even though it is. I mean, it wasn't during if it was true that it was during President Trump, it makes me think who wasn't doing their job. And if in fact the administration today, Biden, is doing their job so thoroughly that they are actually realizing that there are balloons during the Trump administration. And my question to that would be, if that was the case, how is it that only during this discovery of the Biden administration balloon spying, I mean, it was realized that the balloons were in the air, that we were only able to find out that the Trump administration had 6 sightings or 6 instances, and we are just hearing about it now because as we're going to see with the news, everything's being blamed on Trump anyways. Why not start out the administration to say, see, this is one of those things where Trump failed, because we're blaming the inflation on Trump, we're blaming the balloons on Trump, we're blaming the derailments on Trump, we're blaming everything that's happened in this country on Trump. The gas prices were high on Trump, and the COVID on Trump, and of course everything under the sun is for Trump. I would think that that would be the first thing that they would have thrown in our faces, those that are voted for Trump, to say, did you see? As soon as he went out of office, they would have said that, but obviously not. So I'm going to have to put on my glasses for this one, because I'm going to be looking down and reading from the timelines of what went on. This is from NPR, how a Chinese spy balloon prompted the U.S. to scour the skies. So it was only recently that they started scouring the sky, threatening to delay the new balloon. It's saying now a balloon is threatening to derail any possibility of a diplomatic communique between Beijing, also accusing the U.S. of sending balloons to China. Both the U.S. and China have traded fiery allegations of extensive aerial surveillance programs and injecting a new source of distrust and animosity between the two countries. The balloons apparently earlier this month also prompted the U.S. to shoot down other unidentified objects in the sky, and sparked a fresh wave of criticism in Washington, with Republicans accusing President Joe Biden of not acting quickly enough to provide enough transparency. So not only we're getting paranoid now, not only are we blowing up balloons, but we are also looking for other things that might be there. February 2nd, a Syria U.S. defense official tells reporters that the U.S. is tracking a flying object and has very high confidence that the object is a Chinese high-altitude balloon and is flying over sensitive sites to collect information. Uh-oh. And so what do you think the people are going to think when we're saying that, right? And Marco Rubio, of course, says a Chinese spy balloon over the US is alarming, but not surprising. The level of espionage aimed at our country by Beijing has grown dramatically more intense, a brazen over the last 5 years. So we know that, of course, Marco Rubio, a Florida senator. Domestic pressure immediately begins to build. Florida Republicans, and as I said, Senator Marco Rubio said what he said. On February 3rd, in a rare repression of contrition, China says regrets the unintended entry of the airship into U.S. airspace. It insists the balloon was not there to spy on U.S. military sites. Really? Really? How many of you believe that? But was a civilian airship sent up for research purposes and had accidentally drifted over the US due to weather currents. Beijing apologizes comes less than 24 hours before Secretary of State Anthony Blinken scheduled travel to Beijing to meet China top leader Xi Washington, and then of course Washington cancels the much anticipated trip. China responds by saying no such trip had even been announced. So here you have contradiction coming left and right from our government and of course the Chinese government. And so this is why you have so many independent freelance such as myself. I'm not on the field a lot of times to do, I guess, again, breaking news, but I do want to commend my brothers and my sisters and my colleagues that are out there risking their lives, which I used to think that journalists used to risk their lives to earn respect and ranking in journalism. But it's unfortunately today that you're seeing it is these independents that are having to do the job. And let me tell you why. Because when you have a narrative that's being sent down from the networks to say, here's a piece of paper and this is what you're going to say, and they give you and they email you and this is the talking points, and you see and I'm sure many of you have seen a talking point after talking point of all of the media that are saying same thing about the story. It's just not normal. Here I am reading stories to you, but I have my own viewpoint. I'm saying things. I know I'm reading from these articles that are existing, but I'm giving you what's been written, and then I can tell you what I think about it. And my comments are the fact that the people that today used to listen to the news are no longer the people that are listening and accepting. And the reason why we're going over this news, and I started out with those points that I was making earlier to say we need to start asking ourselves a question. I'm not instigating anything to say to go against the government, but the government works for us. The government is our employee. We the people are the government. We the people employ the government. We send the government. We actually we are the ones that send people to occupy the Congress and the Senate, the people that we vote in. So it is our voice, it is our vote that sends them in. It is our tax paying money that actually pays, even though they are enriching themselves once they get to Washington. For some reason, I don't know how, on the salary of these politicians, they are becoming multi millionaire, because many of us that are working a 9 to 5 or working even as independent contractors, we are working our behinds off to make ends meet, and we can't stop. Stopping today, having children or not having children, a mother in many cases is just doing her best to find help with babysitting and other things, because they need a 2 income household in this society, because a 1 income society is no longer cutting it. And you have politicians that we are voting and sending to Washington, and they leave office in their old wonderful peaceful age, millionaires. How is that happening? How is that not something that we are looking into as well? And so we need to ponder, and we need to start asking questions, but ask educational questions, educated questions. Ask questions not to stop asking questions, because I start asking questions. I have people on Twitter insulting me and telling me to shut my mouth. And if you knew who you're talking to, of someone that whose mouth was shut, someone whose mouth was silenced, someone who only gained her voice after 2003, even though we came to America in 1978. It is only in 2003 that you're seeing this woman that's speaking to you, whose voice was found. Because even though we had been living gloriously and peacefully in the United States of America since 1978, we escaped Iraq in 1977. We had not found our voice because we could not speak here, because the repercussions that was going to be affected, or going to be suffered, was by those people that we left behind. Other Assyrians, other people that were left behind, other family members that were left behind would suffer the repercussions of Saddam Hussein, because he said, oh, because they think they're free to speak in America, but you're gonna suffer here. You will be oppressed as a result. And he sent a message to all of us. And even though we were silenced in Iraq directly, we were silenced in America indirectly. So when I'm speaking my mind to you and telling you I am afraid for my newfound country, I am afraid for my adopted country, I am seeing signs that we've seen once before in a life that we've buried in the past. Please take me seriously and don't shut me up and don't try to silence me. I have gained a voice, and I'd like to be able to warn my countrymen, my community members, my members of the We the People, that not to stand against our government, but to aid and help our government, and to realize our position, our duty per the Constitution as We the People, that we need to stand up and hold our government accountable, and not to just give us, poo poo. As I said before, poo poo us, as the press secretary keeps doing, Jean Pierre, and answers the questions she wants to, and chooses not to answer the questions. It's just not going to work. And so, and I want to thank this article that I'm reading through NPR, that is has written down the sequence of events as to what happened on February 6th. China admits another high altitude balloon spotted over Latin America belongs to it, and says that that airship was also conducting weather research. Wow, they really are doing a lot of weather research lately. And if you can believe that, you can believe in the Tooth Fairy. Similar balloons were spotted as early as 2019 over Japan. Winter in the U.S. Air Force in Hawaii scrambled jets intercept a unmanned balloon off the island of Kauai. The head of Taiwan's Central Weather Bureau claims multiple balloons similar to the one shot down by the U.S. have appeared in Taiwan's airspace, but later retracted his statement. What is our government doing? How is it that they're not able to see this? I mean, there's been Republican and there's been Democrat administrations here. How come they haven't seen these balloons occupying our sovereign airspace? There's something going on. And so we the people, I keep going back to the we the people. We can't just vote and go home and sleep. We the people, when we're voting, we have to take responsibility for the people that we're voted in. And that's why we have districts. That's why we have our own officials that are representing us. We are here to hold accountable and to call our representatives and to say what is going on. And so for that representative might not know that these things are happening, or we might bring to their attention the news. They might not know at the time, but we'll research it and we'll get us the answer. I don't know of any of our officials here in Arizona that we have gone to, that we have emailed, that we have asked questions, that they haven't said to us, I'll get back to you on that. And then they haven't. I've yet to experience that. Anything that we've ever asked about, they have actually responded to us. So, but here we have, and I'm talking to the Republicans and the Democrats, by the way. So, I mean, if the Republicans right now are the enemy of the people, because we have a Democratic, which shouldn't be that case, that it shouldn't be the case. I don't care who's in the White House, he's my president. And so if me as a Republican, you see it as criticism and not a genuine question, then I ask those, my brothers and my sisters in America that are Democrats, I want to ask you, maybe if they hear it from your voice, they'll answer the question. To answer, what is our government doing? And I'm not just asking of this president, because if they're saying that President Trump's during the administration of Trump it happened, then during obviously former President Obama, then what is our government doing? How is it that we are unable? Why are we so? Why are we all of a sudden reacting so heavily now on anything that we're seeing in the air? If it was nothing, and it's probably been roaming our territory for a while. February 9th, the U.S. briefed diplomats from 40 countries about the Chinese balloons it shot down. On Capitol Hill, both chambers of Congress received classified briefing on the incident. The House passed a unanimous resolution condemning China's alleged surveillance of the U.S. And it goes on and on and on. And Fred, if you can show some of the pictures of this balloon that's been flying in the air. Fractions between the U.S. and China over balloons continue to ramp up. The U.S. sanctions six civilian Chinese aerospace companies, it says, are supporting Beijing military surveillance efforts. And so this news is really, really concerning. When you have this in the sky and we're not monitoring, and then when they did blow it up, this is what they got. And so you see them, collecting it. And I know they were going to test and see what this is. At first they said, we can't tell you what it is, but here you have shooting it down. Again, on February 10th through the 12th, the U.S. shoots down 3 unidentified objects in as many days, all found in North America airspace. And then asked by NPR's Michael Martin about what he knows about those objects, Representative Jim Himes of the House Intelligence Committee says it could be just residual experiments that were done by anyone, frankly. They might actually be active Wi-Fi balloons. They might actually be active weather balloons. I'm relatively sure that they are not a threat in any way to the people of the United States or to our national security. I have to pause here, seriously, because this is why I'm saying we need to take this news with a grain of salt, and we need to take these briefings with a grain of salt, and not to accuse our government, but to hold our government accountable as we, the people, as we were designated to do by the founders and by the Constitution, by those rights that were given to us to hold our government accountable. Excuse me, and to figure out what is going on. And so going on with more of this balloon program, the Pentagon confirmed an unidentified flying object with a potential surveillance, and it goes on. And of course, this article was published on 14. State Department spokesperson John Kirby was saying that the objects could be potential, but they weren't sure. And of course, don't forget, there was a potential balloon that was shot down over Lake Huron. A F-16 fighter jet shot down the UFO from 20,000 feet above the Great Lakes. So this was the 4th object in a week that was shot down by the fighter pilots over the U.S. and Canada. The Pentagon felt it was better to blast the balloons out of the sky rather than attempt a tactical strike and take down the balloon and its equipment intact. So I don't know. And then, of course, we have the blame game. I don't know why is it that we find ourselves blaming when we can, we should take pride. The administration, the President Biden's administration, should take pride in fact in saying, we found it. It probably was there for a while, and we found it. We're taking care of it right now. But then again, the spokesperson, the State Department spokesperson said the Chinese balloon program was operating during the previous administration, but they did not detect it. We detected it. We tracked it. So basically, blaming them, taking credit, almost like what I'm saying they should have done, but in the same time, take responsibility for it, and say, you know what, we should have all as a collective body of government, we all should take responsibility that we are just noticing it now, but let's not blame this and that. And the reason why I think it's a blame game, because we're going to see in the next few reports that we talk about the derailment, we're going to see that the previous administration was once again um, blamed. The Pentagon last week claimed there were 6 Chinese spy balloons spotted over U.S. territory during the Trump years. Who spotted it? Why didn't they notify anybody? But no one was notified in leadership in the Trump administration or the U.S. intelligence department. Much more likely, the story, and they don't know. They're saying, and of course, when you're blaming the previous administration, now the previous administration and their admins are saying the story is completely made up. And so, what do we have? We have more divide. We can't seem to find we can't seem to find a common ground. How is it that the United States of America cannot find common ground? It used to be where the Republicans and the Democrats agreed to disagree, sat around and disagreed with policies, but then at the end of the day, they voted on it. Whatever policy moved forward, everybody was okay with it. There used to be words like, remember those, I'm not that old, but yet I'm old enough to remember, reach across the aisle. Let's reach across the aisle. Those words are non existent anymore. How come they're not reaching? I mean, they're not only reaching, they want to reach and maybe choke each other. Right now it's yeah, I want to reach out and I want to choke you. I want to see you behind the alley. I want to see you in the alley and show you what I mean. What is going on? What's going on in America? Why is there such a divide? Why is there us and they? The other day there was a post that I put on Twitter where it says we, they. I don't know who it was that was talking. I said, what does he mean? What do you mean we and they? And they were talking, of course, about the Republican and the Democrat. And I don't care who said it. I don't care if it was a Democrat or Republican. We're the United States of America. We, the people, doesn't have a Democrat or Republican. It doesn't have a color. It's not written in red. It's not written in blue. It's in black and white. The Constitution was written so that we can all apply it and conform to it. And I know that there are amendments to the Constitution. There are Constitution things that don't apply to us today, and that's where the amendments come in. And that's why we have the both chambers of our government, so that they can do that. Of course, with the votes of the people, with the partnership of the people. So the government, our government, is a partnership between the people and, of course, those elected. But we see we and they. When we start talking we and they, we have to have something to say about that. It's almost like we have to, as parents, we have to bring both sides together and say, now, come together. We need to learn to share. We need to learn that we need to respect each other's space. We need to respect each other's views. Where's the respect? We've lost complete respect. Look at what we're talking about, the media. And so this is the blame game, okay? And then again on Saturday, and this article, of course, was written. Let me see, when was it written? I want to make sure that I'm reading the right dates here. Because they were admitting to the fact that there was this was on the 14th. On Saturday, the Biden regime admitted the China spy balloon was first spotted a week earlier in Alaska, back on January the 28th, and flew from there into Canada and down into the continental U.S. On Tuesday, the balloon entered Idaho and crossed the U.S. for the next 4 days. So they do have, I hope they have a handle on it. And so, again, and I just read to you in the beginning where it says, Biden says latest object shot down over U.S. not linked to China spy program. Private companies' conclusion set to fuel criticism that downings were overreaction amid pressure over initial balloon discovery. This is a story that's written in, I believe it's the Washington Post. And it says Joe Biden has broken his silence on unknown aerial objects shot down over North America during the past week, assessing that they were most likely operated by private companies or research institutions rather than China. So all that hoopla, it turns out that they were private companies. The US president's tentative conclusion is likely to fuel criticism that his orders to take down these objects were an overreaction amid political pressure over the discovery of a suspected Chinese spy balloons that transited much of the country. Now, my reaction or my opinion. Now, China was always saying that, oh, they're not spy balloons. They're just weather balloons. They're just informational balloons. They're just private company balloons. And of course, once the public heard, once some of the media outlets that wanted to report it started out reporting it again, credits to the independent journalists that are reporting it and holding people's feet to the fire. Those that are in the Department of Justice or in the administration altogether. I've been saying that. What do you think is going to happen now? Now you have Biden, President Biden, agreeing to say that that's what happened. Now, and this is the kind of questions we need to ask. These are the kind of questions that go through my mind when I hear things like this. With all of the articles that I just read over to you, okay, all of the papers that I was just flipping over, what I'm saying is this. If this is true, it could be one of two things. It could be that President Biden has decided to agree with China in order to maintain the diplomacy and the communication level that they have been wanting to reach out to have or build the bridge of communication with China in order not to sabotage that communique. Maybe he's agreeing or he has made an exception to say, since really nothing happened, we brought them down, we shot them down, and so there it is, it's over with, and we are good to go now. And so rather than destroy what we were trying to build and go down to ground zero again with China, let's just admit to it, go along with them, even though we know better. Let's go along with them to start building that bridge, or that it is in fact that President Trump or President Biden, based on the research they did after downing so many of those balloons, shooting them down, that they actually did inspect them and found out that they were not a threat to America, and they actually found this out. Now, if that's true, then China's still angry. Why? Because they're going to come back and say, we told you so. We told you that they were nothing more than weather balloons. They were not spy balloons. But you accused us, and without believing us, now we have no trust in the fact that you will believe what we say, or that we don't have confidence in the fact that we can actually make a deal. One of two things. Either President Biden is going along with them to try to build the political dialogue that is much needed to start working with China, not for China, with China. Or it could be true that they were a nothing burger and ended up being made into what it is by the media, by the people, by the fear of people who have a mistrust for the government, who thinks that they're lying to them. And of course, we're going to see there's a reason why the people are so disenchanted with the government. They are so, and some people will use, and I'm, the Middle Eastern, my Middle Eastern side doesn't like to speak like this, because we have the utmost respect for our elders, for those people in the authority figure. And so I say this with respect, but I'm quoting people that have said, I'm disgusted with the government. Okay. And so again, please know the source that's speaking to you. Before you judge me, before you speak against me, before you think that I am a hardcore MAGA, Republican, conservative, whatever you want to call me, you can label me anything. I am an American. I'm speaking to you in the English language. I was adopted in this country, coming from an oppressed country, and so I have the right to speak, just like you have a right to speak. And everyone has the right to do that. And so this is why when we're reading the news, we need to question, not because we want to instigate. Maybe there are people that do question the news to instigate because they're hardcore on both sides, the Republican side, and there are hardcore on both sides, and so they can't sit down, and they can't seem to sit down. I've got relatives that can't speak to me; they can't sit down with me, only because the reason why they can't sit down to speak with me, not because they know that I'm a Republican, but they know that they cannot win me over. The only way they want to sit with me is to know that I'm going to sit and say, yes, I will become a Democrat. I will become a liberal. What you are saying makes sense to me. And that is the only way they're going to sit with me. And so I say to those people, God bless you, but no, thank you. And not because I find anything fault with their opinion or their thought or their viewpoint, but because I remain who I am, and I want to be true to who I am. Again, civility. We need to become civil towards one another and respect one another, because we're not going to be able to hear each other over each other. Because if we're talking at the same time, we're not going to make sense. Neither one of us will get our way, and we will have what we have today, a divided country. So what's going on in America? We need to ask that question. And so again, so we're seeing that President Biden is now saying that this is what's going on with China. I got to make sure that we have enough time for what we've got coming up, because I know that we've got a lot of stories now. China claims the right to respond further after U.S. shoots down spy balloon report. And this is from the New York Post by Catherine Dunleavy. The Chinese government said Saturday that President Biden's decision to shoot down the spy balloon that crossed America was an excessive reaction, and that it retains the right to respond further. There you go. See? Now they're going to say, we told you. We told you, and you didn't believe us. China claims that its balloon was a civilian airship and not the spy device the U.S. claimed to be, and said that the U.S.'s decision to destroy its property seriously violates, listen to this, seriously violates international convention, according to the statement obtained by the New York Times. Wow. Those are Feudin words. Those are words that does not say, I want to sit down with you and try to figure this out. In these circumstances, for the United States to insist on using armed forces to clearly an excessive reaction that seriously violates international convention, the statement said, China will resolutely defend the legitimate rights and interests of the enterprise involved and retain the right to respond further. 2 U.S. Air Force fighter jets took out the balloons off the coast of North Carolina Saturday afternoon. That's all I'm going to read. That is a longer, again, this is a New York Post. I didn't write the date on this one, but it's a 5-page article, or at least 3-page article, that you can actually see yourself. And yeah, and there you go. How many spy balloons were there? How many spy balloons were there? I'm reading from an article from NBC News, actually. The scale of China's balloon surveillance could be more extensive than a handful of flights over the U.S. as intelligence agencies sift through hundreds of sightings of unidentified balloons and aerial objects in recent years, a lawmaker, a U.S. official, and an expert told NBC News. The Biden administration is still trying to determine the full extent of China's spy balloon intrusions into U.S. airspace, and it's possible that the number of confirmed Chinese surveillance flights over the U.S. rises. Wow! Again, let me just read the part where, again, blame. U.S. military detecting it over a period of years has raised questions about an intelligence failure and prompted calls for investments in the country's air defense and radar systems. And of course, it was saying the military and intelligence agencies detected the 3 balloons flights during the Trump presidency after President Trump had left the office by reviewing the data for previous sightings and of unidentified aerial objects, according to Biden officials. The 4 known flights prior to the February shootdown spent far less time in the U.S. airspace. It's almost like, yeah, nana boo boo, yeah. When it was Trump's turn, it was there for all those years, but in our airspace, it was just a few days. It was just since January 28th, and we've caught it. And I'm tired. I'm really tired. I really am. Um, we need to come together as a government. We need to start acting like adults. The world is watching, and again, I keep referring to myself as someone that comes from the outside world, but I come from the outside world, and I have assimilated. I have accepted the Constitution. I have taken an oath. As many of you that are born here don't take an oath to allegiance to the United States of America. Immigrants do. Immigrants that come to this country take an allegiance, and my allegiance to this country, to say that I will bear arms and I will defend uh, America to the best of my efforts and of course my strength until death. And so when I say that, it really grieves me to be able to sit here and to read articles written by multi-million dollar conglomerates of media, and of course quoting government officials that are pointing fingers one to the other, saying you did it wrong, I did it right, and the other saying, we were the best, and the other one saying the reverse. I don't care who it is. And if you were saying that during President Trump's administration that there was 6 balloons that were that the airspace and the information was studied, and they found 6. Why don't you hold the administration accountable? Why don't you approach President Trump and the administration and his staff and his cabinet to say, whoever was in charge of the aerial space, whoever was in charge of doing their job, that didn't do their job, bring them, even though they're out of office right now, to say what was it that prompted us to be able to find this and not you? Because when as we know, these governmental chairs, um, um, just like with the cycle of government, those people that move on, retire, they are replaced by someone else. The White House is occupied by one administration or the other. Like I said, I don't care who's in the White House. He's my president, and I know I'm gonna upset some of my conservative friends and Republicans who will say he's not my president. You know what? I'm not there. I'm not going there. He's my president. I'm in America. One way or another, I have to accept the fact that President Joe Biden is my president. And so I ask my president to work with the previous administration and to be able to reach across the aisle. I think I'm the first one that has used that term in a long time. Reach across the aisle and find out how is it, because this is the security of our country. This is not about the previous administration or this administration. This is about how did we miss it? How did we miss it? And I think if it wasn't brought to the attention of the administration, this administration would have missed it. How is it that we're missing this? And so, again, we're reading articles and we are talking about the news, but we need to also question the news. We need to also question what we're reading. And it's almost become so biased. There's no objectivity to it. There's nothing to it that we can say, this is objective enough that I can listen to it and believe it. And believe not the fact that objectivity in the sense where both sides are being presented. As the media, mainstream media will say, we like to bring both sides of the issue. Okay, bring both sides of the issue. Okay, but when they bring both sides of the issue, most of it is focused on the one side that they agree with. And when they do bring the other side of the objective viewpoint, they attack them. And it's happened everywhere. And I'm not just talking about the liberal news. I'm talking about the conservative news. There are hosts that don't even let the guests that are on the opposite side of the issue speak, because they're there to be attacked. And it's not right. And it's not right. We need to have the news, and we need to make the we need to make those judgments. Now, I know I'm looking for the article. I'm looking for the article about, here we go. Norfolk Southern train derails in South Michigan. Investigation ongoing. Story by, what is this? USA Today. And it just came on, I think, about a few hours ago. Authorities were responding to a freight train derailment Thursday in Southeast Michigan, the latest incident as communities in Arizona, of course, with our truck, and Ohio grappled with the fallout from the collisions involving hazardous material. Emergency crews were on the scene in Van Buren Township, where about 30 Norfolk Southern Railway train cars went off the tracks Thursday morning. The derailment prompted temporary road closures, which were expected to reopen by the evening, the local public safety department said on Facebook. So I'm reading the article, so there it is. So you see that? We don't have any sound to that clip, but oh my God, that's a horrific sight. That is a horrific sight. You can imagine. The township is located about 30 miles west of downtown Detroit. While an investigation into the derailment is ongoing, Van Buren Township Public Safety said there are no reports of injuries and no hazardous materials were aboard the overturned portion of the train. But do you see how quickly now these derailments are making the news? Why? Because I often say to my kids when I start screaming, when I tell them not to do something and they do it, and I tell them not to do something and they do it, and I tell them, please don't do it, and they do it, and I say, pretty please not to do it, and then Mona starts screaming. When I start screaming, you know what end up happening? All my neighbors know that Mona's on a roll. All my neighbors can hear me screaming and saying, do this and that. Why? That thing that I told them not to do or do is never going to be forgotten. And so here you go, you see, when we the people rose up and spoke up and said, enough is enough. Our government, we want transparency. We want transparency. Where is the transparency from our government? There's a derailment and there's fumes that are all over the air that is escaping. There's confusion. Don't lie to us. Don't hide the truth only so that you can study it and tell us the truth in your own way. Tell us what's going on so we can help. I remember when the tsunami happened in Japan, I remember a lot of people were amazed at the fact that there was no looting, because when the tsunami came, it created an earthquake. And of course, as many of you know, there was a disaster. Thousands of people lost their lives and there was so much destruction. And there was stores and there was everything was exposed. And the one thing amazing about America was amazed. The Western world was amazed that there was no looting. There was no thieves. People off the street were helping people put things back on the shelf. And when somebody was asked, why are you helping? Why are you helping the store man who would otherwise charge you for something that you are about to buy? He's making money off of you. That person said, I help because I don't want to put shame to my family name. Because there is something called honor. There is something called shame in Japan. There's something in their culture that says that I cannot lie because what I do reflects down to my family. And that is exactly the Middle Eastern culture. What I do, we say in Assyrian or in Arabic, we say, I will not bring the head of my brother or my father, because in the Middle Eastern, and I'm sure in the Japan culture as well, the man is the head of the household. And when we say bring down, that is, do not bring shame to their lives or to their heads or to their lives. And so this is what we're talking about. We want to be able to help the government. We want that government to work with us, not hide from us and then later on for us to find out. And even if you intend it, and I speak to my government, my beautiful American government, even if you intended to speak to us and tell us the truth, by hiding it in the meantime, makes you look suspicious. So even if the truth comes out later and we have to find out another way, it makes you look suspicious. And so it's going to be a hard win. It's going to be hard for us to be able to trust our government. Pete Buttigieg blames Trump for Ohio train derailment after criticism of his work. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg shifted part of the blame for the recent derailment of a train carrying toxic chemical on the Trump administration, reversing a little-known safety rule. I know there was a rule or a policy that was brought in by President Obama, and there are talks about the fact that when President Trump took office, that he kind of sidelined that policy, and as a result, this is happening. Buttigieg says Tuesday evening that the agency had taken a series of steps to improve rail safety through historic investment, but said it was constrained by the Trump administration action. In 2018, the Department of Transportation, DOT, withdrew proposed 3 years earlier required trains carrying certain dangerous chemicals to utilize electronically controlled brakes, saying the technology benefits were inconclusive. And so the brakes didn't work apparently, and whatever was on the train broke off and was a result of their derailment. And the the blame game, here we go. And so as a result of the derailment that we found, and again, I'm shifting through my paperwork, we just did this. There were, how many train derailments have there been in the US in 2023? Was that Fred? Okay, let's go ahead and find it. I guess we have a video. Thank you so much. He's talking in my ear. By the way, I just want to thank God for technology. I'm in Arizona and Fred Duman is in California, and we produce this show this way. And he, of course, has the lion's share of it. And then I do this, what you're seeing right now on this end. But thank you so much, Fred. Let's go ahead and show that video.
We just saw in the middle of the country a giant chemical fireball, 100-foot flames, and very few people asking questions about what led up to this. So there was a derailment in 2012 in New Jersey,
releasing 20,000 gallons of dangerous chemicals and noxious gas into the air.
There's children in the town that are being affected by this.
And there was pressure on regulators to do something about those kinds of trains. And so the Obama administration had a rule proposed to better regulate these trains. The National Transportation Safety Board told the regulatory agency, said, listen, these regulations should broadly cover not just oil, they should cover what's known as Class 2 chemicals. And the chemical industry lobbyists went to work pressuring the regulatory agency to limit the definition of what a high hazard flammable train is. Limit it in a way that the train in Ohio, that kind of train ended up not being classified as a high hazard flammable train.
The NTSB closely monitoring 4 cars that are filled with vinyl chloride. It has been found to be linked to cancer.
Trains that were subject to this rule were going to be required to use a special kind of new braking system to try to deter or at least reduce the damage from derailments.
ECP delivers the unmatched performance of air brakes with the precision of electronic communications.
Most trains in the country are still using technology from the Civil War era. But the moment the government was considering making it a mandate, the railroad industry changed its tune. It cited cost concerns to pressure against that rule.
We want to see federal regulations when they're necessary, not just in reaction to a headline in the Washington Post.
Obama's rule included that measure to expand the larger use of those brakes on the nation's rail system. But in that 2016 election year, the Republican Party got about $6 million from the rail industry. And Senate Republicans started beating the drum for Trump to repeal the rule. Donald Trump repealed the brake rule so that the industry does not have to even start to use these kinds of brakes. One former Federal Railroad Administration regulator told us that these brakes, which are known as ECP brakes, would have mitigated a disaster like this. And we just learned today, after the publication of our story, federal officials told us that this train did not have those brakes on the train.
Meanwhile, we begin this hour with the latest on the devastating train derailment in eastern Ohio. Residents may finally get some answers at a town hall tonight. They better get a lot of answers.
Yep, the town hall at 7 p.m. As we learned, the train was hauling more toxic chemicals than first reported. Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio says the air is safe, but you should probably drink bottled water until it's all clear.
Garrett Tinney is live on the ground in East Palestine. Garrett, are you feeling safe there? How is it affecting you?
Yeah, I can tell you there's a little bit of a smell still here at the site of where the train derailment took place, and we've heard that from a lot of folks here. Last night, we spoke to a lot of people outside of a grocery store here in New Palestine, and I can tell you they have a lot of questions that they want answers to. Many are concerned and unhappy with the response so far, with the information that they have been given from officials, and as a result, they just don't trust what they're being told about it being safe to come home. They told us all of this even after Ohio Governor Mike DeWine held an hour-long press conference yesterday with experts from a host of state agencies to try to give some answers and guidance on the initial response, what's being done, and what the plans are going forward. With so many folks here saying they don't feel safe, here's what the governor said when our producer asked him if he'd feel comfortable coming back home if he lived here.
Look, I think that I would be drinking the bottled water, and I would be continuing to find out what the tests were showing as far as the air.
It's not just folks here who are concerned. Surrounding cities like Youngstown, Newcastle, and Pittsburgh are on high alert as well. And after getting a lot of criticism for being silent on this disaster for 10 days, last night Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg again tweeted about his department's response, touting the $32 million in grants it's awarded to improve hazmat response in incidents like these. Ohio Congressman Mike Turner says Secretary Pete needs to do more.
Transportation, Buttigieg, ought to be on this. He's been ignoring this. I think it shows he turns his back on middle America when they have a crisis like this. The Department of Transportation needs to have a greater awareness of the risk and of where these hazardous materials are.
As all of this unfolds here in Ohio, officials in Tucson, Arizona are dealing with a hazmat situation of their own after a tanker carrying nitric acid rolled over on the freeway late yesterday, prompting a series of evacuation orders. And just this past hour, officials there reinstated a shelter-in-place order for a 1-mile perimeter around the site of the crash after some of the acid started to leak when crews tried to take it out from the truck. We'll be keeping an eye on that throughout the day. And we'll be keeping a close eye on tonight's town hall here in New Palestine. Steve, Ainsley, Brian.
All right, thank you so much.
Garrett, are you wearing a mask at all during your live shots? You wearing a mask?
No, it certainly crossed the mind, but due to the chemicals here, the particles are so small that even an N95 mask is only so effective in filtering out those. So you can wear it for peace of mind, but in terms of how effective it is, it's going to be somewhat limited.
That says a lot. Garrett, thank you. Great reporting.
Yeah.
That is great reporting. And it does say a lot. I mean, for God's sake, this is something so dangerous. And then they're telling people to come back. And when the people don't feel safe. Now, drink the water, or the water should be safe. But then, thank God, he's saying, okay, yeah, but if you want, you can. No, mandate that people drink bottled water. Deliver water to them. Transportation Secretary Buttigieg, where are you? Where are you? What is your job? Again, holding people's feet to the fire. We haven't heard the president talking about, where's President Biden on this? That's fine. But President Biden has delegated. He has departments. He has people under him working that should be doing this. Where is Transportation Secretary? 10 days later, and even then, it is to say that I'm doing a great job. I'm giving myself an A+. This is where we're getting frustrated to the point where it's blinding, the anger, the frustration that people are finding. It's not they're just finding it on the Democratic side, on one side or the other. And we're finding it all around as people, because that nitric acid that will be inhaled by children of all humanity altogether. Do you think that nitric acid is going to discriminate and say, oh, you're a Republican, or I'm not going to get into your body? It's a danger to all humanity. I want us to find a commonality once again as human beings, as I said, not reach across the aisle to choke somebody, but reach across the aisle to help. And so this is why when they're telling us, though, and I don't know if we have that video, Fred, where Let me see if I can set this up. Again, this is why I told you I've got so much news to go over. Senator J.D. Vance visits a creek following the Near East Palestine train derailment, chemical burn. He runs a stick. He runs a stick in the water that's nearby. And I don't know if we have that video or not. But as it's still water. It's just water that is accumulated like a little pond in an area where he. Yeah, let's go ahead and show that, please, Fred. I want to show you what's in the water.
Hey guys, so I'm here at Leslie Run, and there are dead worms and dead fish all throughout this water. So, something I just discovered is that if you scrape the creek bed, it's like chemical is coming out of the ground. Can you come here and let me just show this to people. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this on camera, but watch this. Just see that chemical pop out of the creek. This is disgusting. And the fact that we have not cleaned up the train crash, the fact that these chemicals are still seeping in the ground is an insult to the people who live in East Palestine. Do not forget these people. We've got to keep applying pressure. That's how we're going to fix this problem. Thank you.
And this is what I'm saying when I'm talking about frustration. And how many people have you seen on the news saying, my chickens died? Wolves died on the road. I mean, they're just roaming around. Animals dying, livestock dying, and then you're telling me to come home? Like one woman said, who said she had a camera on her chickens, said they were fine last night, but I found them this morning. It was almost like a sight from Hiroshima of World War II. The chickens were just frozen in place, all of them in the same position, 5 of them. She said, if this is my chickens, who are like my family, what's going to happen to me in 20 years? And so it is truly frustrating. I have a letter here that was released from the Congress of the United States. It's dated February 16th, which is today. By the way, today, on the lighter note, today is actually my oldest son's birthday, and I want to wish him a very, very happy birthday. He's 30 years old. I can't believe I have a 30-year-old, but happy birthday, my son, Adam. I love you. Thank you for being born. I always tell my kids, thank you for being born, because I don't know what life would be without them. They're my life, my joy, my breath, and everything that I am. It is for them. And so being dated February 16th, 2023, Dear Administrator Criswell, it is our understanding that Governor DeWine administration has been in communication with your agency about the need for federal support to assist with the cleanup of the Norfolk Southern train derailment and subsequent chemical fire that occurred in East Palestine, Ohio on February 3rd. Despite the severity of the wreckage, chemical release, and the disruption to the lives of local residents, we have just been informed that Ohio apparently does not meet the eligibility threshold for FEMA assistance at this time. Are you kidding me? We respectfully request that you provide a detailed response as to why the residents of this community do not qualify for assistance from your agency. We look forward to your prompt response and your commitment to use any available federal resource to help the suffering residents of this small rural. Are you kidding me? It does not meet the FEMA requirement of a disaster. That's why I'm doing this program to me. It's me, myself, and I. I don't know. I mean, for those of you that are watching, I know. Maybe I'm going on a tantrum here, but I'm not sure. Anyways, there was also an evacuation in Arizona after a truck carrying hazardous nitric acid. I have to kind of slow down when I'm saying that. Nitric acid overturned in a truck, and you saw that in the earlier film. And of course, our prayers to the driver and his family, because I know that he lost his life. He actually died. It was a commercial vehicle carrying extremely hazardous nitric acid, was involved in a crash on an Arizona highway, prompting officials to evacuate the immediate area. And there's that. And so I know there's been a lot of, and by the way, that first clip that we showed, he was talking about the ECP brakes for the planes that are operating under, I think he said, civil war, operating on the same mechanics as a Civil War era, if I wasn't mistaken. Are you kidding me? How come they weren't updated? Why would there be a question? I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. Why would there be a question to change it or to upgrade? I mean, here we are. We've made the most advancement in the last 100 years where we are broadcasting to you off of our computers. We have made so much advancement. Why would something that carries with it so much weight, so much dangerous chemicals, and risk the lives of so many, not have the highest degree of mechanics or the latest mechanics? I don't understand that. Well, I think somebody needs to be held accountable. A lot of people will be held accountable. Why? Because the people are speaking now. The people are raising their voices, and they're not going to lower it. So, I have a very sad story, and I have an opinion. Of course, I've had an opinion. And if we can put up the picture of Senator John Fetterman, at the time when he was actually debating, I was closing my ears, my ears, my eyes, and my mouth. I was just leave it right there as I'm speaking. Leave the picture up is what I'm saying, Fred. Thank you very much, brother. And Dr. Oz was rushing through those questions and answering them as best as he can, of course, according to his view, and watching then Mayor John Fetterman. It broke my heart. I kept saying, where is his wife? Where is his family? Why are they putting him through this? And do you know that I said the same thing, and I shared it on Twitter the other day, and I'm going to share it again. When President Biden was going through the election, and we saw the vital, the energetic President Trump dancing on stage, and we were dancing along with him, and we saw crickets on the other end, where people were making fun and saying, this man doesn't remember where he is. He doesn't know what day it is. He doesn't know what state he's in. I felt sorry for the fact that he had, I know that as a person that has taken care of elderly people that have been ill, I felt sorry for President Biden to say, where is Jill Biden? Where is his family? Where are the people that care for him to say, how would they put him through this? Because they I'm sure knew that he had cognitive challenges. So where are they? And the same thing happened here. Here we have Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman on Wednesday checked himself into a Washington hospital to receive treatment for clinical depression, his chief of staff said on Thursday. And if you recall, the day after the State of the Union, he was actually taken to the hospital because he was feeling lightheaded. While John has experienced depression off and on throughout his life, it only became severe in the last few months. So it's really sad. It says Fetterman was evaluated on Monday by Congress attending physician Dr. Brian P. Monahan, who recommended inpatient care at Reed Hospital. John agreed, and he said after the treatment he's going to receive, he should be fine. He should go back to work. After examining John, the doctor at Walter Reed told us that John is getting the care he needs and will soon be back to himself. Another pause. Why are we doing this? Putting a obviously individual with physical challenges at this point now, having a depression, which is mental challenges. And again, every tweet that I have in every post, I've hand symbol praying for him. I truly am praying for Senator John Fetterman. But why put him through this? Why win an election at all costs like this? Why put him through this? Where is Miss Fetterman? Where is Miss Fetterman? Where is his family? I know he's got little kids. They're beautiful family he's got. Why would you put someone you love through something like this on national TV to be mocked like this? And for the other part, the party itself, why would you put out someone this frail for the American cause? Because he has a job to do. And can you imagine this man that wants to work for America, that has dedicated his life and wants to serve, but is unable to because of his health issues? Isn't that a shame that he's not able to do the work that the people that voted him in sent him to do because of health issues? Because when people on the other side were saying he has health issues, he had a stroke, let him rest, he's not able to speak, he has a speech impediment, everybody was denying it. No, he's speaking fine. I think you had The View, you had every other liberal media outlet saying no, he made a lot of sense. He might have not said it as well as he should have, but he said it well. His answer was great. Why would we do that to someone? Why would we purposely set someone up for failure on a personal side like this? And why would we set ourselves up in the chamber of our government for failure? Because this is not only a failure for the Democratic Party, this is a failure for America. This is actually, this is abuse. With President Biden, I think it's elderly abuse. And with Fetterman, it's actually health abuse. Somebody with health. I mean, here we are, the champions of all these social issues, discrimination against this, don't discriminate against this, and departmentalizing everything, and saying this and that, and putting everybody under an umbrella. You can't discriminate against this. What about this man? What about President Biden? Where we're saying, where's President Biden? Oh, President Biden doesn't know what time of day it is. Is that right? So I'm praying for Senator Fetterman, and I'm praying that his wife will actually really come to the point where they can say that I think maybe it wasn't the right decision to go ahead and keep him in office. And let me go on to the next story. We did that. I was telling you that Nikki Haley, former ambassador former U.S. ambassador to the UN, as many of you saw, that she announced her candidacy for running for the president of the United States of America. And then I saw on Fox News an interview that was done with a few days ago. I really enjoyed it. But before we go to that story, I really want to bring you the story that has really captured my heart, and it's captured everybody's hearts. And many of you know about this, right? Let me read on that. Asbury University revival service that's happening right now. This is a silver lining of what's going on in the country. According to the DC Inquirer, this past Wednesday, not yesterday, but the Wednesday past, the students of Asbury University in Wilmore, Kentucky, gathered at 10 a.m. for what was expected to be just another regular morning chapel service. Now, Asbury University is a Christian college. Now, the service progressed through the usual flow of prayer, worship, and sermon to be completed within the hour. Yet, when it came time for the services to end, no one left. According to the Asbury Collegian, during the call to confession, at least 100 people fell to the knees and bowed at the altar. Voices are ringing out. People are bowing at the altar. Arms stretched wide. A pair of friends cling to each other in a hug, one with tears in her eyes. A diverse group of individuals crowd the piano and flawlessly switch from song to song. Some even sit like me with laptops open. No one wants to leave, wrote Alexandra Presta, executive director of the Collegian. Unbelievable. Now we have a video that we want to show. I think this is the CBN one. Fred, is this a CBN one that we're going to show? Okay, let's go ahead.
We've got a great good news story to start off. It's been a week since the regular Wednesday chapel at Asbury University in Kentucky, well, it turned into something far more. It turned into the manifest presence of God. God has been moving among the students and faculty, and people are traveling to the university to join in this move of God.
Well, one student told CBN News he prays this revival will encourage churches and pastors and stir up a hunger for the Lord. Wendy Griffith brings us the story from Wilmore, Kentucky.
The revival here at Asbury is now in its 6th night, as hundreds of people have come from near and far to just enjoy the presence of God. Even though it's almost midnight, this auditorium is still packed with people that are still
we've estimated well over 3,000 people that are here and at these different locations to worship the Lord.
Were you prepared for this?
No, there's no playbook for this. We're still trying to create some space for what's happening here. And so that's a delicate balance, and we're trying to manage that as thoughtfully and faithfully as we can and just steward what's happening on campus.
I was definitely a bit skeptical at first just because growing up with my church, we never had anything like this, and so I just wasn't used to the idea of a revival. But the longer it's gone on, I've realized that if God wants it to happen, it's going to happen.
My prayer is that this will encourage churches, encourage pastors, encourage just believers, and just stir up a hunger for the Lord. Because again, it's not about Asbury, it's about Jesus.
The fire that started here at Asbury is reportedly spreading as students from nearly 24 other college campuses have come here to take part in the services. And what God started here a week ago is showing no signs of stopping. Wendy Griffith, CBN News, Asbury University in Wilmore, Kentucky.
Well, apparently it's infectious. Lee University is already seeing a similar move. I know of many universities sending delegations there in hopes that they can catch it and bring it back. And if you want to catch it, I think it's online, so you can watch. You don't have to go to Kentucky for it. And realize this, God is always all around us. He is always waiting for us. We keep asking him, when are you going to pour yourself out over us? And he keeps saying, well, when are you going to receive it? When are you going to take the time to come and just sit at my feet and let me pour into you? You can have revival every day. You can have Jesus 24 hours a day. It all depends on, are you hungry? Are you thirsty? If you are, if you seek him first, then you'll find him. Well, we're going to have an in-depth report on the Asbury Revival on Friday's 700 Club. So stay tuned for that. We want to cover this and how it's going to spread. My prayer is this spreads across the nation and around the world. If anything we need right now, we need more of Jesus.
The beauty of this revival is it came at the right time. It couldn't have come at a better time for our country, a country that is under God. I know many people don't want to do it. Some people don't like that term. We are a country under God, and we will remain under God. We trust in God. And the beauty of this revival comes at the most perfect time, saying this: when people are on the move, God is blessing their move. And when people are, and there's the church in Kentucky, and where people are still and lagging and they don't want to move, God moves. God moves in amazing ways, and he can use the little step that you're going to take to make it into a revolution. Here you have a college in Kentucky who had prayers 3 times a week, one of which was on Wednesday, and he took their Wednesday regular routine prayer and made it into a revival. He took a little spark and made it into the bonfire. He took it, and you've got people coming from all over the country right now wanting to experience it, rather than say, let me have a revival in my church, which is wonderful to do. I think everybody needs to take it, just almost like the fire that comes from the birthplace of Christ, from the actually the tomb of Christ. The Syriac church usually brings so much like the torch of Olympic. When they travel the Olympic torch, when they have it and they take it and they pass it down. That's how the light of the from the resurrection tomb of Jesus is brought to the world. And they brought it here to Arizona. I had the opportunity to allow it to come into that light into, I had a candle that had actually, you allow it to light into your home, to come into your home, light, and then let it go out, and it blesses the home. Same thing. This little spark in Kentucky with Asbury University is going to spark the revival that people in America need. We are a nation under God, and we need to come back to God. And when we have strayed, God came a little closer to us and said, America, I still love you. and I am still going to bless you. And I'm going to show you the way. And here you have experience after experience. There were so many videos. There was so much that we could have shown today. But of course, we're already over our allotted time. But there was just so much to talk about today. My heart is full for America. I just want to be able to say that there are so many silver lining that we need to look at, and we can be those silver linings. We can become the conscience. We can become the common sense, and we can become the peace makers in every situation if we apply ourselves, because we are so busy trying to find what's at fault with the other side that we forget we are burning bridges, and that it will destroy us. And it will come down to the fact that we are shooting ourselves in the foot. And once we only got 2 feet. And if we shoot both feet, then we got nowhere else to go, and we're not going to be able to walk. I've got one last video that I want to share with you guys, and then we'll kind of end we'll end the program with this. I know it's been a little longer than usual, but here we go.
Nikki's really running for vice president. That's my sense. I think she has a problem because she first said she wouldn't run if President Trump ran.
She's going to have to do a little more than just say, I'm young.
If everyone's going to run on these policies, Trump gets to say, I'm the one who accomplished all that. Thanks for the free commercial, everyone.
I will simply say this. May the best woman win.
As we mentioned, Nikki Haley, former South Carolina governor, kicking off her presidential campaign today. But there are others potential, as you see the two declared, former President Trump and Nikki Haley there. The other woman on that list, however, potential 2024 candidate with us tonight. We welcome in South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. Governor, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
It's on this day that another female former governor gets in this race. Have you made your decision?
Oh, no. I'm focused on South Dakota. We're in the middle of our legislative session. We've got some important proposals, the largest tax cut in South Dakota history that we're looking to get across the finish line. And frankly, Brett, we're defending this country from China right at home because our president isn't doing anything.
I want to ask you about that, but you have previously said that you did not believe that former President Trump offered the best chance, in your words.
That's not true. What I said is he wasn't necessarily the only messenger for us, and was pretty clear that it is all of our responsibilities at this point in time to be the messenger for the Republican Party. We have for too long relied on one person to tell the story of what American freedom is, and I think all of us need to take up that mantle and make sure the American public knows what we're fighting for.
So do you think other candidates should be in the race?
I think that that's what America is so special, and why it's so great is because we elect our leaders and the American public gets to make informed decisions. So this process at times is ugly and divisive, but hopefully we end up with a strong president in the White House, because God knows we need one.
Well, last question on this. Washington Post says tracking presidential candidates. Kristi Noem's team is already watching potential rivals on the national stage, with one advisor contrasting her with DeSantis. Governor DeSantis late last year, spokesman openly criticizing the Florida governor's record on abortion. Are you kind of creating a lane? When are you going to make your decision?
I am really focused on my job, and I think what happens in this country too often is people focus so much on the next position they're running for, they forget to do their job that they have that day in front of them.
Well, I want to ask you about your current job. You tweeted out today, South Dakota drew a blueprint for standing up to communist China, reject communist lockdowns, ban TikTok for government devices, block China from state contracts, protect our ag land. States must follow this blueprint. On the land, you are pushing a bill that's going through the legislature now that would essentially block foreign purchase?
Well, it doesn't block them. A lot of states are just going with a flat-out ban and trying to push something like that through their legislature. What we're doing is setting up a mechanism by which we have a CFIUS board at the state level that allows some accountability. It allows a board of experts to come in and look at land purchases, and if it's a country that hates us, then they make a recommendation to the governor if that should move forward or not. It makes sure that we still are able to do business in this country, but that if you're coming from a country like China that has for hundreds of years sought to destroy the United States of America, that we can stop those types of purchases, which isn't happening right now. Listen, since 2010 to 2020, we have seen China come in and invest in our land. They've increased those purchases by 5,300%. They have billions of dollars worth of assets here in this country, and they're looking to control our food supply.
For the farmers who are concerned that this is going to hurt their business, there's a couple of them who've spoken out. A farmer in South Dakota for the Corn Growers Association said he was concerned that there would be states with a patchwork of state laws turning away countries that farmers actually normally engage with, and perhaps this is a better situation for the federal government to handle.
Well, the federal government's not handling it. If you look at that instance that happened up in North Dakota where China came in and bought up some of the land that was near their Air Force base, the federal government did not address that situation. In fact, they said that their hands were tied, that they couldn't do anything about it. You know, I am a farmer. I've spent my entire life earning my living from farming until I got into government. I also served in Congress and was on the committee that negotiated our trade agreements, that worked on making sure we had markets open to our farmers and ranchers so they could feed the world. That is why I've taken the approach that I have in proposing this board, that we have some people with the expertise and the discernment to look and evaluate every single purchase that comes from a country like China and go through that recommendation process. And then the governor has the ability to say yes or no. If it's bad for our country and if it allows them to get an asset that's close to one of our national security bases, such as we have in South Dakota with Ellsworth Air Force Base, that we have the chance to reject that and not let it move forward. Listen, Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota is going to be the home to the B-21s, the next generation bomber that will protect this country far into the future. It's important that South Dakotans and the country takes seriously our responsibility to make sure China can't set up shop next door and conduct surveillance on us.
And obviously we heard from the governor of Montana and officials in Alaska, but your take on the shoot down of what we've seen so far, 4 of these things. We don't know 3 of them.
No, we don't. And that's what is such a disgrace from this White House. In fact, we just had updates from the White House earlier in the last 24 hours that said, yes, we have shot down some items. We don't know what they are. We don't know what they have on them as far as capabilities, and there could be thousands more. That's the extent of the clarity that governors have gotten from the White House and from the Department of Defense. So it's shameful and it's neglectful of what this country should be doing.
Let me ask you one more question about policy. You banned gender-affirming care for transgender individuals under the age of 18, signing this bill titled Help Not Harm. It got pushed back from places like the ACLU and other places saying that it is harmful for transgender kids. How do you respond to that?
You know, there's a bill that worked its way through our legislature that I signed into law this last week, that for children under the age of 18, that they would not be able to have medical procedures that would do their gender affirming processes outside of a medical reason, and that it involves their family and decisions they would work on with their doctor, but making sure harmful procedures weren't happening that were compliant with just gender affirming definitions. And so that is a bill that went through a lot of debate and discussion in our legislature that was signed into law a few days ago.
Well, Governor, we appreciate your time, and when and if you make your decision, we'd love to have you back.
Sounds good. Anytime. Okay. Thank you, Brett.
Well, there you have it. I mean, she covered a lot of ground. Of course, she's implementing. South Dakota drew the blueprint for standing up to communist China, and China keeps coming into the subject. Reject communist lockdowns, ban TikTok for government devices, block China from state contracts, protect our agricultural lands. States must follow this blueprint. Basically, they wanna control our food supply. And then, of course, my favorite is the transgender medical procedures. She's stopping the gender affirming, where they're allowing children to make decisions to actually have the surgery without the consultation or partnership of their parents, where I think schools are forgetting their position. They are not secondary, not third, not fourth. Schools are just there to teach academics, just to be able, the public schools are there not to run the lives of families who are bringing their children there. Now, I need to kind of take responsibility as a parent to say, I know that we went to work, and when we dropped our kids off, we thought, okay, they're in a safe zone. They're good there. But, let me tell you, when my kids came home, oh my God, did I pick their brains? What did you learn? Who talked to you? What did they say? I knew all of their teachers, and I knew not just to go to their conferences, but I knew exactly what they were learning and whatnot. And if there was something learning that I knew that I couldn't fight, I knew that I was reversing it in a way where I was complementing it with the culture that I was teaching, with the moral values that their father and I were teaching them at home. And so it's very important that we keep track of our children's education and teachers. And this is so good that we have a governor that's doing that, that's allowing partners, this is going to be funny, it's ironic actually, allowing parents back into the children's lives. Are you listening to this? The schools have taken control of the minds and the bodies of our children right now. They're saying parents are discriminating against the children, and the children have the right to make their own decision without the permission of their parents. And so we need to start thinking, and we need to start asking questions, and we need to start thinking, what is going on in America? Asking ourselves, and then if you want to know what's going on in America, look at other countries, study some other countries. As again, for me, I don't want to study any other country but America, because I've come from those countries where I know what it feels like not to be an American. So I was a non-American per se, but even though our mental state of mind, our freedom thoughts, all as human beings, all think alike. So coming to America, it was just ideal. It fit. America fit our lives. This lifestyle that we chose for our life fit with where we are. And so it's very easy for us to say America is the best there is out there. And the only way for you to know that America is the best is to go experience another lifestyle, another way of life in another country where it tells you what to do, when to eat, when to breathe, where to take your children. And so when you think of things like that and you see those things coming to America, you would start getting scared too, as I am. One last picture I want to show you. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at a grand opening for one of our sponsors. This is a brand new restaurant. It's a beautiful restaurant. There's the address, 5830 West Thunderbird Road, Suite 14. For those of you in Arizona or in Phoenix and surrounding areas, this is in Glendale off of 59th and Thunderbird. It is a beautiful, beautiful restaurant that took about a year to build from the ground up. It's a unique method of cooking Mediterranean and Middle Eastern food. I'm swallowing as I speak because my mouth is getting watery. I can't wait to try the food. For those of you that are in the Phoenix surrounding areas, please come at noon tomorrow, which is Friday. We're going to have a representative from Congresswoman Debbie Lesko, as well as the mayor of Glendale, Mayor Jerry Wires. Cut the ribbon. We're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Senator Anthony Kern from the Arizona State Senate is going to be there, but I believe later on. And we're going to have a whole bunch of people just coming to taste this great food. So for those people that have been going to San Diego, going to Detroit, going to Chicago, going to New York, to have that Mediterranean, Middle Eastern food that you've been desiring, and you think, oh, I can't find it. Well, it's here. It's here in Arizona. We're going to start driving business from San Diego, from California. And I know Fred is in California. Fred, I think you need to come over, and I need to take you to this restaurant. So Charcoal Grill, one more time, if we can show the picture. Grand opening tomorrow, February 17th at noon. We will see you all tomorrow. And with that, we will end the program. I know it's been almost 2 hours. Thank you for being with us during this time. God bless you. We love you. And I hope that I haven't offended anybody. But if I have, please understand that I come with love, and I come with passion for my country. And I want to see the greatest country in the world remain a superhouse, or a super power in the world that is looking, everyone in the world is looking for America's lead. And I want America to remain the leader of the world. Thank you. We love you. Shlama.
America Fest. So we are very honored to be here. We're going to be covering it. It's a summit that's going to take place for the next 4 days.